Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today's episode is titled 7 Signs It's Time to Fire Your Boss. And don't worry, I got another episode coming up. 7 Signs It's Time to Promote Your Boss. And you may not even realize you can fire the boss, much less promote the boss. But we'll talk about the second part on the next episode. But this episode's about firing your boss. We all know the boss can fire us, but I promise you we can do the exact same thing to them, and you'll understand it after we get through this episode here. So I want to start out with a quote from Les Brown. My wife Rhea and I have done a lot of training with Les Brown, and she actually won a speaking contest with Les in 2014, and because of that, she and I both got an invitation, personal invitation from Les Brown to speak with him in Los Angeles in January of 2014. So we spent 2 days with Les out there and got to speak on stage at his event. He was doing a speaker, a training academy type thing, and it was pretty cool. And got to really kind of know him a little bit, much better. But anyway, let's get back to this lesson. So I want to start out this quote from Les Brown. Les says, "If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy." So when you think about that, it's much easier for most people to work for a boss they don't like than to fire the boss and get a new one. So think back on those words from Les Brown for a moment. I'll repeat them again so you don't have to rewind. If you do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what's hard, your life will be easy. So you may be thinking, what? Fire the boss? Absolutely. If we can't grow and develop our boss to become the leader they should be, it's time to fire the boss. And don't miss that. I'm saying if we can't develop our boss to be the leader they need to be. When you learn the stuff I'm teaching on all of my podcasts, and you learn how to episodes, and you learn how to lead yourself well, you're going to learn how to lead others well. And that includes leading your boss. So for many people, firing their boss isn't an option. They'd rather be in a miserable situation than take action and improve that situation. They just won't fire the boss. They haven't even considered firing the boss. And what's worse is they don't even realize they can fire the boss. You can fire the boss. I've done it. And basically what I'm saying is quit. When you quit, you have effectively fired the boss. High turnover. I was speaking to a group recently, and I told them, if you got high turnover in your organization, it's because everybody's firing their boss. Everybody's leaving the boss. That's what firing the boss looks like. When a lot of people understand it and get it, and they have options, it looks like high turnover. So something worse than that. Some people quit but stay, but that's a different episode. Instead of firing the boss, they quit but they stay, and I'm sure you can understand that. So let's talk about it. 7 signs that indicate it's time to fire the boss. And you don't have to fire them just because of this, but if any of these 7 signs are present, you need to definitely consider firing the boss. So number 1, the first sign that it's time to consider firing the boss values the position more than the people. So when the boss is self-centered, their main goal is to gain a position of authority. They want to control the people with power and position. People follow these kind of bosses because they have to, not because they want to. So to confirm this sign, ask yourself this: If my boss had no position and no authority, if I didn't have to follow them, would I still choose to voluntarily follow them? If you would voluntarily follow your boss, even if they were not the boss, you probably ain't ready to fire that boss. But if you're following that boss only because you have to, there's a sign right there that says you probably need to consider firing that boss. The second sign, the boss thinks they have arrived. In other words, mission accomplished. They don't feel responsible for growing others. They're not focused on developing the team members on their team. They don't read any books, listen to any audios, watch any videos, attend any seminars. They're simply coasting. They're not growing. In other words, they're slowing. Because if you're not growing, you're slowing. One or the other. No such thing as sitting still when there's other folks out around us who are moving forward. So we're either moving forward or we're getting left behind. One of the two. So to confirm this sign, ask yourself this: is my boss intentionally developing me and encouraging me to go to the next level? If your boss isn't intentionally developing you, not only competency, but also character, both sides of the coin, character and competency, and they're not constantly encouraging you to grow and go to the next level, you need to consider firing that boss. They're holding you back. The third sign you might need to consider firing your boss: the boss thinks you are there to support them. So they give orders instead of assistance. Instead of assisting you, they give you orders and directions on how to assist them. They want to look good instead of helping you look good. They focus on taking credit instead of giving you credit. And they blame others while avoiding responsibility themselves. They tend to think me instead of we. So to confirm this, ask yourself, do I feel that my boss is there to support me? If you don't feel your boss is there to support you, you probably need to consider firing that boss, because they're holding you back. The fourth sign you need to consider firing your boss: the boss treats you as an object instead of a person. They don't want to develop a relationship with you. They just want you to do your job and don't cause any problems, and the world will all be great. They're not concerned with your personal problems. They want you to leave those at home. They're not interested in who you are and what you know. They're not interested in your dreams and your goals. They're only concerned with you doing your job. So to confirm this, ask yourself, is my boss interested in anything besides my ability to do the job? Think about that. Reflect on that. If all your boss is worried about is you doing your job every day, you might need to consider firing that boss, because they're probably holding you back. The fifth sign you may need to consider hiring your boss: the boss is not a people person. They're not generally friendly. They're only nice to those they think can help them. They walk past people without speaking or even acknowledging them. And they seldom, if ever, show gratitude to their team, to you. They seldom initiate a personal conversation. If it doesn't have anything to do with work, you're probably not even talking to these kind of bosses. And people usually don't like people that don't like people. So most of the bosses who don't like their people, guess what happened? Their people don't like them either. So to confirm this, ask yourself, does my boss talk to me when it's not required? Is your boss having conversations with you simply to have a conversation with you? If not, it's probably time to consider firing your boss, because they're probably holding you back in ways that you can't even see or understand, but it's happening. The sixth sign that you may need to consider firing your boss: The boss doesn't ask many questions. They like to make decisions instead of facilitate decision making. The way you facilitate decision making is you ask questions, but that entails involving others in the decision making. They're not interested in your opinion, these type of bosses. They don't care what you think. Whenever you do speak, they listen with the intent to reply, not with the intent to learn or to be concerned with what you really have to say. They're just waiting for you to be quiet so they can say what they got to say, because they think they already have all the answers. They think they're always right. To confirm if you got this kind of boss, ask yourself, does my boss regularly ask my opinion and encourage me to give them feedback? Especially encourage me to give them feedback without them asking for feedback. So if your boss doesn't ask you many questions, doesn't want your opinion, probably time to consider firing that boss, because they're probably holding you back. And the seventh reason that you should consider firing your boss is because the boss makes you feel bad. If the boss makes you feel bad, they don't care how they make you feel. They're rude, they're short, they're too busy to show an interest. They seldom speak unless there's a problem or need to give you directions. We may not remember what they last said or what they last did, but we always remember how the boss makes us feel. I bet you can reflect right now, wherever you're sitting, the last time you had an interaction, conversation with your boss, whether it was 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, 5 weeks ago. I guarantee you, you know right now, this moment, how that boss made you feel the last time you spoke to him. You may not have a clue what y'all talked about, but you remember how they made you feel. So to confirm if your boss is the kind of boss that makes you feel bad, ask yourself this simple question: does my boss make me feel good while I'm at work? Does your boss make you feel good while you're at work? If not, probably time to think about and consider firing your boss, because they're probably holding you back. So if you answer no to just one of these 7 questions I asked at the end, it's probably time to consider firing your boss. If you answer no to a bunch of these questions, you better seriously get to thinking about it. So what I mean, like I said already, I mean quit. Move to another department. Move to another plant within the organization. Move to another city. Move across town to a new organization. Start your own business. But if you can't quit, don't blame the boss. It's not the fault of the boss if you can't quit. That problem is between you and you. That would be your fault. And so what I'm telling you here is some leadership truth, what you have to know. If you don't have options, that's not the boss's fault. That's your fault. And so the boss doesn't decide how many options you have. You do. A controlling boss can only control you at work. And they can only do that if you show up every day. That's why you might need to consider firing them. What you do after work is up to you. The boss certainly don't have anything to do with what you do after work. So when we talk about these bad bosses that need to be fired, it's one thing I want you to know is I look down on people who look down on people. And if you got a bad boss, I'm telling you right now, you deserve better. I've seen them throughout my career. Don't care for them. Fired several of them along the way. But you deserve better than a bad boss. So this is what I want you to know. The boss is not your real leader. You are. They may be the boss, but you are the real leader. Answering no to any one of these questions that I asked, means that you're in a situation that is not positive for you personally or professionally. Answering no to any of these questions means your boss is building distrust and does not have your best interest in mind. So when we're at work, we should feel motivated, not manipulated. We should feel cared for and cared about, not talked about. And I want you to really think about this. This is what I was talking about a minute ago when I said you're your own leader. Because I know there's people listening to this, you got a bad boss. And I'm telling you right now, I want you to fire them. And if you can't fire them, you need to be listening to my podcast episode and figuring out what you need to do to grow and develop yourself so that you got options. And one of them options is fire the boss, because you got other options of places to go. People want to hire you. People want you on their team because of who you have become. I'm telling you, it'll happen. So this is a good quote from Jim Rohn, one of my favorite quotes from him. He says, if you work hard on your job, you can make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. You can spin that around and say, if you work hard for your boss, you can make a living. But if you work hard for yourself, you can make a fortune. That's a little different spin on it. So have you truly accepted responsibility for your circumstances? Are you truly working on you? I know you work hard on the job, but what do you do after work? Are you working as hard on growing and developing yourself, creating options as you are for the boss? Especially if you're working for a boss you don't like, and you'll work that hard for them, but you won't work that hard for you. What's wrong with that picture? So what happens at work is important, but what happens when you're not at work is most important. That's where your freedom and options can be found and created. So what you do when you're not at work determines where you live, how you live, when you work, where you work, and what you get paid when you do your work. All that's really determined by what you do when you're not at work. And what I mean by that is if you go home and do nothing, you're guaranteeing you're going to be doing the same thing at work tomorrow, most likely. If you go home, you read, you study, whatever that means, whatever kind of content, definitely got to be character development, personal growth stuff, and then competency related to whatever you want to do. You're reading, you're going to school, you're taking classes, you're watching videos, you're self-educating, doesn't matter how, but you aren't living on purpose when you get home. You're going to create some options. So the foundation of growth is sacrifice. You must invest your time by developing yourself and postpone rewarding yourself. The education you're going to get and the experience you're going to get with the new jobs, that's going to reward you the most for the rest of your life. What are you willing to give up in order to go up? You are the real boss. Instead of firing the boss, many people tend to focus their energy on blaming their boss for their circumstances and the situation they find themselves in. Nothing could be farther from the truth. It's not the boss's fault. They may be terrible people, but you're the one that walk in there every day if you're following a bad boss. And I don't mean to get you to turn off the episode. I'm saying this because it's the truth. Some people need to hear the leadership truths, what I call it. And if we're following a bad boss, that says more about who we are than who they are. Because why do we walk in there every day? We're exactly where we're supposed to be based on all the choices we've made leading up to this moment. If we don't like our environment, if we don't like our circumstances, if we don't like the people we work with, if we don't like the boss, we need to start making different choices that will give us options that we don't have today. We can do that. Nobody can stop us from doing that. A bad boss can't stop us from making better choices that's going to give us better options. So I'm going to leave you with a quote by John Maxwell. John says, many times we lack confidence because the people we spend the most time with would rather take us down a notch than lift us up. So I want you to know every time you get on this Blue Collar Leadership podcast, you listen to somebody on this planet who cares about you enough to take their time, make these episodes to try to help lift you up. I don't know who all the other people you're talking to and listening to is, but I'm telling you right now, I'm here for you. That's why I do this. But I can't do it for you. I can only do it through you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you need to fire the boss and you can't do it, you need to get busy making it happen so that you can do it. And if you can do it, do it. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.